So we're starting here in line 523. We've got Hecuba talking to her husband, King Priam, and she starts with tandem, which normally means at last, but in this context, we might translate it as please. It's kind of expressing a request, really. So she says, please, concede, that's an imperative, withdraw or retreat, and hook means to here. So please withdraw here, semicolon. And then she says, haik ara, this altar, will guard tuebitur. So that is a deponent verb. So it looks like it's future passive, but it has a future active meaning. This altar will protect or guard omnes, all of us. And this is one of those ones where in prose it would be omnes, so it's accusative plural. Because it's poetry, it could be written omnis. So this altar will guard us all, or out, you will die, moriere. This is a future, it looks like a future passive, but it's deponent, so it has an active meaning. You will die, simul, at the same time, i.e. together with us. So she's basically saying, look, just come over here to the altar where we are, and either the gods will protect us, or if not, then we can at least die all together. So just to go over that first bit from the beginning of line 523, Hecuba says, please withdraw here. This altar will guard us all, or you will die together with us. Okay, then perfect active participle, effata, because it's from a deponent verb, having spoken, seek in this way, ore with her mouth, ablative case, with her mouth, she recapit. So Hecuba is the subject, we assume, and she drew back, she pulled back, and the object is longaium, which could have a V in the middle or a U, depending on what edition you're looking at. She drew back the old man, he's in the accusative case, ad se to herself, ad plus accusative, and se is just the same as say. And she placed him, so locavit is another main verb, she placed him in plus ablative, sacra meaning sacred or holy, and then sede meaning a seat. So she placed him on the holy seat. So just to go back over that from seek, it means having spoken thus with her mouth, she drew the old man back to herself and placed him on the holy seat. Okay, so now we go into the next line, 526 here, and we start with autem, perhaps. We could start there. Autem meaning but, and then eke meaning look or behold. It's a kind of exclamation. Then a lapsus is a PAP, perfect active participle, because it comes from a deponent verb. So having escaped. De plus ablative here, meaning from, having escaped from the kaide, the slaughter of Pyrrhus, so Pyrrhi, genitive case. So this doesn't mean Pyrrhus's own death, it means the slaughter that Pyrrhus is inflicting on lots of Trojans. So having escaped from Pyrrhus's slaughter, and now we have a new subject, Polites, and we're told straight away who he is, because he is unus, one, of the sons, natorum, genitive plural, of Priami. So, and that's genitive as well. So just remember, natus is a poetic version of filius, just as nata, meaning a daughter, is a poetic version of filia. Okay, so, but look, having escaped from Pyrrhus's slaughter, Polites, one of the sons of Priam, and Virgil leaves us in a bit of suspense as to what the action is, because first of all we get this phrase, per tela, per plus accusative, through missiles, per hostis, through the enemy. And hostis, this is again the ending, which in prose would be hostes, because it's accusative plural, through missiles, through the enemy. And then we get the main verb here in the next line, fugit, he flees. And then we imagine the word in, because we then get an ablative phrase, in the longis porticibus. Longis meaning long, porticibus meaning colonnades or porticos. So he flees in the long colonnades, and he lustrat, he traverses the vacua atria. Vacua means empty, as in vacant or vacuum, and atria are halls, the plural of atrium. So he flees in the long colonnades and traverses the empty halls. And then at the beginning of the next line, we get this crucial adjective, saucius, wounded. So he has already been wounded here. Okay. Then, new sentence, illum. I would actually not translate illum first, but notice that it's accusative. So, illum, referring to Polites, we know that something has happened to him. He's not the active person here. He is somebody to whom something is happening. The active person is in fact Pyrrhus at the end of the line. So, and before translating even Pyrrhus, I would probably translate Ardanes, perhaps. Ardanes is a present participle, as you can tell from the ns at the end. It means burning, and burning here, not that he's literally on fire, but metaphorically he's burning. He's full of rage and kind of passion, right? So burning, Pyrrhus, and the main verb is in sequitur. That means he pursues or chases. It's a deponent verb, so it looks passive but has an active meaning. Burning, Pyrrhus pursues him, so illum, accusative case, is the object, referring to Polites, pursues him with, and now we get an ablative phrase, with infesto vulnere. Infesto meaning hostile, and vulnere, curiously, meaning a wound. So Pyrrhus pursues him with hostile wound. Now, that's a bit strange, because how can you chase someone with a wound? You know, you can't carry a wound in your hand. I think the idea is that Pyrrhus is just waiting. You know, he's literally holding a weapon, but he's just waiting for the moment when he can inflict another wound on Polites. So it's a very sort of graphic, slightly metaphorical way of speaking. So I might translate vulnere as weapon in English, because I don't know if it quite works in a literal translation in English as wound. Anyway, burning, Pyrrhus pursues him with hostile weapon. Then we have a comma in line 530. Then we have yam, yamque, literally now and now. In other words, at every moment, he tenet, he grasps with his hand, manu. So manu is ablative singular. He grasps with his hand, and he premit, he presses on, hasta, with his spear. So hasta is ablative singular. So we get this very vivid description of Pyrrhus chasing Priam's son Polites through the palace. Okay, so now we are in line 531. Ut here, remember ut plus subjunctive is probably going to be in some kind of special construction, like a purpose clause, result clause, indirect command, something like that. Whereas ut with indicative just means as or when. And if we look for the main verb is ewasit, which is indicative. So it means as or when. So, and tandem means at last. I wouldn't translate it as please here, because we're not in a request kind of phrase as we were a few lines ago. So, ut tandem, when at last. He emerged, ewasit, and it will become clear in a moment that the subject, he, refers to Polites. When at last he emerged, ante plus accusative, in front of or before the oculos, the eyes, and faces, et ora, of his parents, so parentum is genitive plural, when at last he emerged before the eyes and faces of his parents, concidit, he collapsed, ac, meaning and, the next main verb is foodit at the end of the line, he poured out and the object is vitam, he poured out his life, cum plus ablative, right? Remember, cum plus ablative is with, cum plus a verb means when or since, and here we do have an ablative right next to it, so it'll be with. Poured out his life with multo sanguine, with much blood. So in other words, Polites dies right in front of his parents, Priam and Hecuba. Okay, next line, hic. Hic, with a long I, it means here or at this point. I think at this point would be a good translation in this context. So at this point, priamus, so Priam is the subject. And then we get a little subordinate clause here. Quamquam, although. Iam, now. And then tenetur is present passive. So although he is now being held, in plus ablative, in media morte, in the middle of death. It's an odd sort of phrase. He's being held in the middle of death. The point of this is just to say, even though he's about to die, even though he's doomed, he still wants to make a last final stand. That's the point. So at this point, Priam, although he is being held by now in the middle of death, nevertheless, tamen, or however, nevertheless, he non abstinuit, he did not hold back, right? Abstinuit, just like in English, words like abstain, abstinence, abstention, all that kind of thing, they all come from this verb. He did not hold back, nor, nec, did he pepercit, did he spare, and this verb takes dative, so voci, his voice, and que, his anger, irai. Nor did he spare his voice and anger. In other words, he did not just sit there silently, but he sort of vents his rage. He sort of gives an angry speech to Pyrrhus. And now in the next line, 535, we begin that speech. And he says, at. Now, at can mean but or various things like that. I think in this kind of very emotional context, it's a kind of expression of emotion. So you could just translate it as o or are. And then tibi is the dative of to, so to you. Pro plus ablative, pro scelere, for your crime. And then exclamat means he exclaims. So, oh, to you for your crime. And we'll see in a minute what tibi is doing there. And then we get pro again for talibus ausis. Talibus means such or of such a kind. Ausis it's actually a PPP from the verb audeo, meaning I dare to do something. So an ausum is a kind of something that has been dared, something bold, something reckless. So you might translate it as reckless actions or something. So for such reckless acts, may the gods, which is D, and I'm saying may because the verb at the end of this line is in the subjunctive, may the gods, si est, if there is, qua pietas, any dutifulness, and then kailo is ablative, we have to imagine in before it, so in kailo, in heaven, so if there is any dutifulness in heaven, quae curet, which might care, or to care, about talia, such things. And then we finally get to this main verb. So may the gods, and sorry, it's not curet that is the subjunctive relevant to D, it's per solvant. So may the gods pay, and that's why you have tibi at the beginning. May the gods pay to you and the object is dignas grates. Dignas meaning fitting or suitable, and grates meaning thanks or rewards. Thanks first of all for grates, and et redant, return or pay back, debita praemia. Debita meaning due, right? Like a debit, if you have a direct debit or something, an amount that is due. And praemia is rewards. So it's quite a dense and difficult few lines here. The point is saying that, if the gods care about mortal actions, please may they give Pyrrhus fitting thanks for what he has done. And Priam says the word thanks, grates, in a very, very sarcastic way. He obviously does not think that Pyrrhus deserves thanks. He really means more like punishment. So he's speaking with a kind of bitter sarcasm, basically. He wants Pyrrhus to be paid back for his crimes. That's the point. So let me just go over that bit again. So, O to you for your crime, he exclaims, for such reckless acts, may the gods, if there is any dutifulness in heaven, to bother about such things, pay fitting thanks and return due rewards. Okay. Then, qui is referring back to Tibi. So, to you may the gods, you who, right? So who is referring to Pyrrhus. You who have fecisti, in this instance this means caused, you who have caused me, may, coram, this is an adverb that means in person or face to face, you who have caused me in person to cernere, infinitive, to look upon, and the object is laetum, accusative, the death, so synonym of mortem, the death of my son. So nati is the genitive of natus, the death of my son. So you who have caused me in person to look on my son's death, and have foidasti, this is a shortened version of foidawisti, perfect tense, you have defiled patrios vultus, literally paternal faces, but I would translate it as singular, and I would translate patrios as just of a father or a father's. Like it's the same as, if you remember earlier, Pyrrhus pressing on patria vi with his father's violence. Here it's the same. Patrios means a father's. So you have defiled a father's face. And then finally, we just need to translate this ablative, funere. Funere means with death. So again, a few different Latin words for death. Right, we had laetum in that line. There's mors, mortis, which you see quite a lot. And then another Latin word for death, which is funus, which gives us words like funeral. So just to go through one more time from qui, you who have caused me in person to look on my son's death and have defiled a father's face with death.